Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their practices, and leave a legacy. We're doing a series of spotlights on remarkable advisors across the country. Joining me on this segment is Greg Wellborn. He's the principal of First Financial Consulting out of Pasadena, California, and you might have seen his work on the Wall Street Journal, Orange County Register, or USA Today. Greg, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you. I feel like I just got set up. Remarkable. That's a high threshold. So I got to put my game face on and rise to the occasion.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Greg, tell us a little bit about your work there at First Financial Consulting, and specifically, who are the types of folks that you help?
That's a great question, and very important to the work that we do, because we really are looking for relationships with clients. So this isn't a transactional model. Unfortunately, in this industry, financial services, and I use air quotes, too many people started out, and too many of the major wirehouses and custodians are still looking at the transaction model. So whatever I tell you is a sales pitch, I may gloss it up as being advice or whatever, but I'm trying to sell product. That's not what we do. We stand on the exact opposite side of that. We are a fiduciary. We are offering advice, not product. We never sell anything to anyone. We're helping people get from point A to point B. Now, for every client, that is typically different, but the concept is the same. If people are looking for a relationship with someone that's going to help them get from wherever they are now to define goals, sometimes we have to help people define those goals. But once we get to the sense of, look, I need to retire, or I need to put the kids through college and I want to retire, whatever that might be, then we're going to develop that plan that gets them from here to there. And it's not going to be try to hit a home run and find the next Yahoo or the next Apple or whatever. I mean, those things exist, obviously, but very few times can you discover them in advance. They're almost happen chance. So if you're looking for a more broadly diversified type of strategy where it's a steady Eddie as you go approach, we're going to get you there. And we're very, very good at doing that. But it is that client that's looking for that long-term relationship, wants the fiduciary, wants the honesty, the objectivity, and isn't the day trader, isn't the riverboat gambler. So there's kind of a fancy word, psychographic. There's a psychology there that makes for a good fit. When we're not going to find the next hot stop, but we are going to help you accomplish your goals.
You mentioned a word that maybe not everybody's familiar with. So just to clarify for our listeners out there, what is a fiduciary?
It's a really fancy term. It's come up somewhere in Washington, D.C. to kind of codify something that is ethical and everybody understands that. I can start out and say we offer 100% objective advice. And that's how we started the firm. My dad started it 40 some odd years ago. As that's grown in the industry, the Securities and Exchange Commission has kind of said, well, we need to codify that. What really is that? And the term that now is kind of in the press and people are probably beginning to be more and more familiar with is fiduciary. What it means is there's a legal obligation now, in addition to a moral obligation, to do nothing that is not in the client's best interest. In other words, we have to be 100% focused on the client's best interest. That's the fiduciary standard. That's what it means legally to be a fiduciary.
I appreciate that. That is a terrific definition, Greg. So tell us, Greg, since we're recording this right now, we're just coming out of the pandemic, and of course, we're not totally out of the woods yet. Has that changed anything in the minds of your clients? Are the questions different? Are the strategies different? What's changed for you as a result of the pandemic?
I think in general, there's a greater level of fear. That the pandemic obviously introduced us to fear of grave sickness and death. And as it first unfolded, it seemed to be somewhat arbitrary. We were trying to get a handle on, well, where does it strike? What situations does it strike in? How can you prevent this? And there was a lot of misinformation floating around. So the fear factor was really, really high. We've gotten a better handle on COVID. Obviously, we can read the press and find out that they're really narrowing down on where this is contagious, where this is not, where this is harmful, where this is not. But that fear factor, I think, permeated into other factors of life. And so people, I think, in general, are more fearful of where are we, more fearful of where's the economy going, more fearful, less confident of, am I going to get there? They read about supply chains. They go to the store and prices went up and they can't even get the product that the price went up on. And they wonder about, are my kids now going to be able to get to college, get to a good college, be able to have a good lifestyle? This just permeates now everything. It's moved beyond the medical, it's moved beyond the physical, and it's really getting into the psyche and applies now to money matters, which already were somewhat anxiety producing for people. So it kind of took that natural fear, money, and I'm not sure about this. I don't like financial stuff. I don't talk the language you guys talk. And it kind of put it on steroids. I think that's the biggest change that we've seen, but that also represents the biggest opportunity for us to help. Because I think one of the things we do really, really well is help clients obtain confidence that they're going to get from point A to point B. That getting there is one thing. Having the confidence that you're going to do it makes life a lot nicer to live, and we excel at that.
And a lot of confidence comes from experience, education, and knowledge. So that's huge. I love that. So, Greg, speaking of you mentioned some things, fears of the unknown. Are there a lot of myths or misconceptions that you find people hold that maybe keeping them from getting their financial houses in order or sabotaging their success?
Yeah, I would say almost every rule of thumb out there sabotages in one way or the other. We actually did a video piece on our website about kind of some of those myths. There's the 8 times rule, there's the 4% rule. These are all general rules of thumb that allow people to kind of talk in marketing and sales lingo. Like take whatever you're earning, and if you've got 8 times that amount of money in your piggy bank, you're going to be fine in retirement. That rule of thumb might apply in a very unique situation. So good for that person. But for somebody else, it doesn't. So to take these very, very generalized rules of thumb, which came from salespeople to have pitches, and apply them universally, sabotages, because it gives you now a false confidence, and you may be moving in exactly the wrong direction, and you're not going to achieve your goals, but now you think you are. So it's really harmful. You would have been better off wondering, because at least in wondering, you'd kept your eyes sharp and been asking yourself, is this path going to make it? Am I doing the right thing? But if you're following some rule of thumb that's been thrown out there by a financial salesperson, boy, you've really misled yourself.
That's a great point, because I could see in the marketing speak and the sales speak, they try to make it seem simpler than it is.
Always.
So to that point, when you start to work with folks, do you find any glaring common mistakes that they're making with their finances, or any huge pitfalls that you see a lot of people fall into that you could help people avoid?
A number of them, but let's kind of concentrate, I think, on 2 of the biggest. One, people underestimate how long they're going to live. We all have perspective of our parents. And the problem with that is that each generation is seeing life expectancy to grow. So if you're looking back at your parents or your grandparents and saying, well, they only lived to 75, 78, then that's all I need to plan for. You're not looking at what medical science is doing now and what longevity really is now. They say that the first person who's going to live to 110 has already been born. The sense that you're going to have a longer lifespan on average, can't predict that for any one individual, but on average, you're going to have a longer lifespan than you probably think, means you need to have more money in the bank to last more years than you probably think. If you're not planning for that, that's a fatal flaw. Secondarily, is not anticipating what inflation is going to do once you're in retirement. Your cost of living is going to increase. One of the big things we tell people is our job is not to get you to retirement. Our job is to get you through retirement. And if you live 22-ish years, I know that sounds like arbitrary, but that's how the math works out. At the average historical inflation rate post-World War II, 3%, your cost of living will double. So if you're living on 50 grand today and you retire today, when you typically end retirement, meet your maker, you're probably spending $100,000, and that's just buying you the same lifestyle you've got now. That doesn't even take into consideration what medical costs may do toward the latter part of those years. So underestimating lifespan, underestimating expenses in retirement, 2 critical flaws.
Very interesting. Greg, what inspired you to get into this field? You're working with your father now. He started the company. Was that the inspiration? Tell me how you got started.
Long story that made very, very short. First of all, my dad has passed on, but he started the business as a medical consulting company. That he had been a very successful doctor, retired because it's a physically demanding job, but didn't want to hang it up entirely. And one of the really great things he'd been taught by some people early in his career was not just how to be a good doctor, but how to run a good medical practice, so that you had something at the end of the day. And a lot of doctors aren't business people, let's face it. So it's not what you get taught in medical school. So he learned that. So he started focusing more and more on that. And for a lot of reasons that sons don't want to immediately jump into father's business right out of school, I didn't. So I started at Bank of America, did very much the same thing at B of A that I'm doing here, matriculated on, worked for a couple of my clients, helped them run their businesses, did startups, spinoffs, et cetera, et cetera. And finally my dad kept saying, come join. And I did, but with the caveat of saying, well, I want to kind of broaden this. I don't want to just work with doctors. I want to broaden this base and actually help a lot of other people. And it was at that time that my dad, thinking of retirement, that he kind of went through some retirement planning exercises and figured that as good as he was in medical practice management, he had done a lousy job in retirement practice. And that's probably a niche that a lot of people are going to fit into. A lot of people have that problem. So we started to focus on that for obviously very selfish reasons, helping my parents retire, but then looking at that and saying, we've just learned some stuff that we really can bless a lot of other people with this knowledge, this experience, and how to do it. And that became the genesis and the focus of First Financial today.
Oh, that's a terrific background. I love that story. Greg, before I ask you my last question, for folks that realize they need to get their financial houses in order, what's the most important thing they should look for when looking for an advisor to work with? What's that?
I absolutely believe that you need to look for someone who is a fiduciary, is not only promising, but is kind of on the legal hook to be 100% objective. To get some references to determine that they're good. I mean, you can be objective and give bad advice. It doesn't mean that it wasn't objective. It just means it wasn't good. So you want objectivity, you want quality and skill. And then talk about your life's goals, what you're trying to accomplish with life, not just with the money. Make sure that they resonate, because you're looking at someone who's going to partner with you in accomplishing something that's extremely important to the heart and soul of who you are. They don't need to agree with everything, but they need to resonate with that. And if you can't find that, move on. So get 3 legs of a stool: objectivity, quality, and a resonation, a compatibility with who you are as a person. That will give you the best relationship and the best outcome.
Sage advice. Greg, for folks listening that would love to speak with you, how do they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
Well, a number of ways. You can pick up the phone and call us, 626-844-4630. You can go to the web, www.firstfinancial.is. I know that sounds strange, it looks strange, but literally firstfinancial.I as in India, S as in Sierra. A number of different ways to use resources, schedule a call, ask questions. We're more than happy. Send us an email. We're more than happy to give you an introductory meeting, no charge, no pressure ever. Talk through like the things I just said: who we are, why we think we're good, and what are your life's goals? Who are you as a person, and do we resonate well with that? And if not, we send you on your way and we'll help you find somebody else that does, because it's about helping rather than about making a buck. We really are trying to make sure people accomplish their goals and their dreams.
Greg, this has been terrific. You've been great. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Well, thank you very much. And to you as well. And a hometown nod to the Windy City. I was born in Evanston, just down the road from you. Moved to California now, but still love Chicago when I get a chance to get back there.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's great to have you. That was Greg Wellborn. He's the principal at First Financial Consulting based out of Pasadena, California. And this segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com, the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their practices, and leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.